Before we take up our usual portion of Savitri, there was a question of what does a God-realized person feel or do after he has his union with the divine. Many traditions, at least in their philosophies, have it that they are unconnected, detached, Atma Rama, Atmarati, lost in themselves, lost in the bliss of God, or in some of the Buddhist lines of discipline, disappearing in nirvana. What happens in this false world is immaterial to them. But does it really happen that? And supposing we say, no, the liberated man helps the world. Now why he should help? Because he is concerned only with God. When this question, it appears, was put to Mother, Mother replied that a person who is liberated, he does not forget what he has passed through. He is very much alive to all these difficulties, trials, to which seekers who tread his path are exposed. So they can't help laying themselves open to be drawn upon by others. Now, Sri Aurobindo, in his poem, the Jivanmukta, in his last two stanzas, he describes what happens. In the case of a Jivanmukta, liberated while alive, and he continues to live, whether he lives upstairs or in the slopes of Himalayas or on the banks of Narmada, it is immaterial. He describes only to bring God's forces to waiting nature. Nature, whether it is universal nature or nature in each one of us, needs help. Its own forces are not enough to surmount the difficulties, to meet the challenges. They wait for an enabling help from above. To these, he brings the forces of God to nature that waits. Forces that crack down obstructions, that build the rising structure of consciousness, and to help with wide-winged peace her tormented labor. Nature, in her labor, is tormented from all sides. Individually, we are harassed. If we are not harassed physically by our relatives and friends and so critics, we are harassed by our own recalcitrant elements. The past comes up. The other day I was reading an experience of somebody. He wanted to meditate. He read books. It didn't help. Then he went to a Mahapurusha and he told him, do like this. So he says, he did like that and all became silent and he was just starting feeling happy. Just at that time, one by one, all the wrongs that he had done in the past, they started coming before him. All the hurts that he had done, all the insults that he had thrown. And he says, my God, what have I been doing? And he says he couldn't help, he started sobbing. Tears rushed in his eyes, started weeping. Got disturbed, woke up as it were, what am I doing? And it took him some time for that phase to go down. I am sure with each one of us, this ghost or the spectre of the past haunts. The more we are awakened, the more we try to be good, all the past where we have not been very exemplary people, those things come up from the subconscious. They don't help us to go forward. The whole motive is to pull us back in realizing the futility of change. So this torment of the past, torment of present inability to rise above our obvious limitations, they are scorching. The more we are serious, earnest, the more we are tormented. To such, he says, to help with wide-winged peace her tormented labor, and heal with joy her ancient sorrow. The sorrow has been there for ages. Only by reading that the world is based on delight and is going towards delight, the wounds of sorrow are not healed. It requires something from above, from the heights of God, to heal them. And he does that. And heal with joy her ancient sorrow, casting down light on the inconscient darkness. We are at most conscious at times of things from the subconscious. But below the subconscious is the unconscious. Still below the unconscious is the inconscient. Not only obscure, not only shadowy, but it is positively dark and there. He casts down shafts of light. Doing these, he acts and lives. The Jivanmukta, he acts when he acts in order to do this, and he lives really to do this. He has no other reason to live. He is not here to receive the worship of thousands, exercise his suzerainty, spiritual suzerainty. No, he is here to help, to heal, to light up. Says, vain things are mind's smaller motives to one, to such a person. All these motives, human motives, are vain. They don't really appeal to him. To become head of a mutt, to have a large following, to be hailed as the Messiah, to be called an avatar of the age. These are, he says, mind's smaller motives are vain to one whose soul enjoys for its high possession infinity. He whose consciousness is full of infinity, whose possession is the infinite, and the sempiternal all is his guide, the ancient, ageless God as all is his guide. Not God in his heaven, but God here, everywhere. That is his guide and beloved. He loves God not on the top of the Himalayas, but here in the midst of this world, and refuge. This universal God is his guide and beloved and refuge. So the whole standard and the poise of the life of a Jivanmukta is different. We judge from human standards, human motives. But he goes on quite different lines. Only to bring God's forces to waiting nature, to help with wide-winged peace her tormented labor, and heal with joy her ancient sorrow, casting down light on the inconscient darkness. He acts and lives. Vain things are mind's smaller motives to one whose soul enjoys for its high possession infinity, and the sempiternal all is his guide and beloved and refuge. And then earlier he says, his inner status, this is, we are concerned so far with what he is doing outside from our point of view. But he himself, wherever he is, he says, although consenting here to a mortal body, that is, he consents to live. A liberated man can withdraw at will, but he does not, because he has no personal will of his own. He has fused his will with the will of God. So, he consents here to a mortal body. He is the undying. He has something in him, has realized the immortal. Undying is the deathless, the immortal. That is here, at the soul level, at the level of the self, he has become one with the immortal. So centrally, he lives in that immortal status. Whatever the external form may go through, he doesn't leave his station. Limit and bond he knows not. Any kind of limit in time or space, they are irrelevant to him. He lives in eternity. He lives in infinity. So the pressures of time, the compulsions of space, they don't matter. So he says, limit and bond he knows not. For him, aeons, the aeons are a playground. The centuries, the millennia, thousands and thousands of years, the ages, they are a playground. Life and its deeds are his splendid shadow. What goes on outside, the actions that he is moved to do, they are only his shadow. But the real existence is in himself. And why he exists still on earth, and that is, he has said in the last two verses, to bring forces to God's nature, to help with peace the tormented labor, to heal with joy the ancient sorrow, cast down light on the inconscient darkness. That is why the questions do not arise whether a Jivanmukta, a liberated man, concerns himself with the lot of the millions of creatures who are left behind. It is impossible for that love. And as Mother says, love is the heart of truth. There is a divine truth, and the heart of that truth is love. So whoever realizes the truth necessarily partakes of that love. And when there is love, there is no other. All is one. Whatever happens in the vast extension touches here. That is how you can understand Mother's remarks made more than one occasion, that when anyone in the ashram, she said, does something wrong, she has an unpleasant vibration in her body. It is not poetry, it is not metaphor. While discussing what happens when one extends one's consciousness, one breaks out of the individual walls and enlarges. She says it is an everyday phenomenon that things going wrong anywhere, you feel as if they are happening in you. Not because you like that person or whatever, but by the very fact that person may or may not consciously try to be in your consciousness, but by the very fact that this consciousness spreads out, there are consequences. And she says, she does not care to distinguish whether this unpleasant vibration is due to something wrong that has happened here in the body or due to somebody else around. And she makes there a very pregnant observation. which is something unique. She says, if we attribute the blame to somebody else for what happens in our environment, to that extent, the possibility of our correcting the situation gets less. She refers to herself. If she were to trace and say this is due to so and so, to the extent she accepts that situation, she says her power to correct that situation gets less. If, however, on the other hand, she identifies herself with the wrong movement that is going on, then she has a greater control over that movement and a greater possibility of correcting it. It looks so obvious when she says that. But humanly speaking, from our angle, we say when a mistake is done by somebody and when it is clear it is due to him, there the matter ends. Why should I take it upon myself? That works as far as the individual is content with his own salvation. Once you accept a larger objective, whether I do a wrong movement or another person does a wrong movement, when it is in the same house, it is right, it is wise for a more developed person to take responsibility for that and deal with that situation as if he had done it. To find fault and put it squarely on the person who has caused that wrong movement helps nobody. Situation remains as it is. Spiritually speaking, with the extension of consciousness, which is expected of every one of us, identification with goes on around us is a natural step. And when one does it, if there is suffering, if there is unpleasantness, there is a way of keeping it only on the surface. We have to learn the trick of living within all the time, but functioning on the level of nature. Since we are here in nature, but we are not lost in the movement of nature. That is where, as we discussed some time ago, the Sankhyan discipline of separating the Purusha from the Prakriti comes in. To start with, that's not the end. As a practical measure, we have to learn to separate the soul or the Purusha from Prakriti. And if we can take the stand there, then the questions do not arise. What does a Jivanmukta do? Or how does it help the world by one becoming liberated? Every moment of his life, he exudes vibrations, emanations of love, purification, and corrective spiritual force. They ease the situations. And after all, that is why thousands and thousands, knowingly or unknowingly, come to ashrams like this. They are pulled. They get helped. They may come as tourists. But there is a providence at work. To get this touch, liberating touch of a divine consciousness, hungered by the soul, thousands come. And that touch which is received within may take time, may take some births before it fructifies in external life. So, I would go one step further, that a liberated person, a person with a God consciousness, even when he leaves the body, he continues to serve God's creation. From his tomb, samadhi as we call it, vibrations emanate. And they have a special force of dissolving the knots, opening up new passages, even when they are not in their physical body. So a liberated man, a liberated person, whether in the physical body or without it, continues to be a force for the liberation of others. We, living here, we know of Sri Aurobindo and Mother, but even outside, there are samadhis of saints which are still powerful after 300 years, after 400 years. And absolute, unlettered fakirs whose origins or history is not known, they continue to exercise power and offer help to those who seek. The other day, there was a report, I don't remember where, of a person who went to Shirdi Sai Baba's shrine. It's near Bombay. That person had read, he went. He or she, I don't remember at this moment. And they were all doing rituals and worship. She seemed to see an old man in a corner. So that person went. Lot of pilgrims going here and there, coming by buses. Then there are the priests or the people in charge with rituals, artis, pujas. It was new to that person, but then there were guides interfering. But that person said, I want to sit near that old man. Everybody looked back, but there is no old man there. But he said there. And then it was found that means that person got the darshan of Shirdi Sai Baba. He was an old man, known as an old man, his pictures are old. So he was there present. and in that person's devotion or good luck, the person